Hello, welcome to Growing with Fatmanan. This is a podcast that is about transformation, changing our lives. And as we seek to transform our lives, I am your host, Fatmanan Gabriel Mafulul, and I'm so glad you tuned in today. And today we are going to be looking at a very interesting topic. Many times we ask ourselves why we act the way we act and why we behave the way we behave, and it all has to do with our mind. And today we are going to be talking about how the mind works, which is a great topic because many times we hear that our minds control our actions, our thoughts, our desire. But how does that happen? There was something I learned a while back, and that is something that's called the reticular activating system, which is in our brains, that whenever we think of something, or have you ever seen someone when you want a red shoe, or you want a particular kind of bag, or you like a particular kind of car, you notice that almost everywhere you go, you begin to see that shoe, that bag, or that car. Whatever you want, you begin to notice that thing. And that all happens in the reticular activating system. That is, whenever in your mind you focus on a particular thing, then you begin to see that that thing happens to you. It becomes your reality. So our realities first begins as thoughts. Then when they are thoughts, they begin to manifest themselves in real life. And that was all created by our maker. Our maker put that in us. So the base of how the mind works based on focus. So you become what you focus on, in a nutshell. Therefore, the mind is the control center of our entire being. That is, whatever we think will result to who we are. So it is from our mind, what we focus on determines who we are. Romans chapter 12 verse 2 says, "Don't copy the behavior and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. Then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect." You see, there are some certain customs and behavior when it comes to who you are that you are not to copy and you are not to imbibe, but you are meant to be renewed from your mind, from the way you think. Because here we see that the basis of who you become, and even knowing what your purpose here on earth is by you renewing your mind to a particular way of thinking. For ages, we have had philosophers, scientists, and healthcare providers link the mind and the body. That is, your mind influences how your body behaves, and in turn your body influences your mind. We see that what you see, what you hear, what you feel can in turn influence the state of your mind, and what you think can also in turn affect how your body behaves. There's something interesting in Proverbs chapter 4 verse 23. It says, "Guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life." Here we see that our heart, our mind, is a product of what we allow to come into it. Just like you have a building and you create fences, you create security measures to protect that building. That is how our mind is meant to be. That is, whatever we want the condition of our mind to be should be things that we intentionally allow to come into our mind. And whatever we see that we don't want to build our lives based on these thoughts and ideas, those are the things we keep away from our mind. And that is how we guard our mind and protect our mind, which in turn channels and determines the course of our lives. Colossians chapter 3 verse 2 says, "Think about the things of heaven and not the things of earth." If we are ever meant to be in heaven, if you're someone who wants to be in heaven, then your thoughts becomes the thoughts of heaven. It is thinking about the things of heaven that puts you to be above the realm of earth. But if you keep thinking about the things of earth, then you will see that heaven is far away from you. So what you dwell your mind on determines where you are going and where you will be. Proverbs chapter 17 verse 22 says, "A cheerful heart is good medicine, but a broken spirit saps a person's strength." This is very profound. When your heart is cheerful, it lifts your spirit and it in turn energizes your body. But when your heart is broken, your spirit is broken, your mind is broken, it saps away the strength from you. That is, even the strength we feel physically is a product of the conditioning of our mind internally. Mark chapter 7 verse 21 and 22 says, "For from within, out of a person's heart, come evil thoughts, sexual immorality, theft, murder, adultery, greed, wickedness, deceit, lustful desires, envy, slander, pride, and foolishness." Here we see that all the acts we perform are a product of what comes from within. So if you want to act right, you think right. If you want to act wrong, you think wrong. Romans chapter 8 verse 6 says, "So letting your sinful nature control your mind leads to death, but letting the Spirit control your mind leads to life and peace." That is, the nature that controls you determines what you become. If you are being controlled by evil nature, you become an evil person. If you are being controlled by the nature that gives life, you become a living person. So the nature in which you allow to control you determines the kind of person you will be. 2 Corinthians chapter 10 from verse 4 to 5 says, "We use God's mighty weapons, not worldly weapons, to knock down the strongholds of human reasoning and to destroy false arguments. We destroy every proud obstacle that keeps people from knowing God. We capture their rebellious thoughts and teach them to obey Christ." This verse shows us that the warfare we fight is not just mere physical. There's more that goes on in the spirit realm, in the realm that our mind connects to, in the realm that our spirit connects to. So it is in that realm that we are to engage the weapons in which we defeat all the thoughts that will come to keep us away from being who we were meant to be. Philippians chapter 4 from verse 6 to 9 says, and I'm just paraphrasing the key point here. It says, "Don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Tell God what you need and thank Him for what He has done. Fix your thoughts on what is true and honorable and pure and right and lovely and admirable." It still says that the peace that transcends all our understanding will guard our heart and mind. That is, instead of allowing our minds to focus on anxiety, to focus on being worried, then we shift our focus to that of gratitude to God, to that of telling God, this is the issue at hand. Then we focus our thoughts on thoughts that are right, are pure, are good, are admirable. Whatever is good, you think of these things. And that is when peace that transcends the understanding of the physical realm will guard our heart and our mind. 2 Timothy chapter 1 verse 7 says, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear and timidity, but of love, power, and self-discipline." We see that for a man to live above fear and timidity, you have to focus your mind and your spirit on the power in which you have within. So within, you channel your focus on love, on the power you have, and the self-discipline you have been given by God. And when you channel your thought on that, you see that the spirit of fear and timidity will leave you, because you have changed your focus to focus on who God has said you are. James chapter 1 verse 8 says, "Their loyalty is divided between God and the world, and they are unstable in everything they do." You see that? I once heard a great man say that one time he got an understanding. He tried to look up and look down at the same time, and he noticed that he couldn't. And what he said is that whenever you are looking up, you cannot look down, and whenever you are looking down, you can't look up. So your mind can never be double-minded at a particular time. It cannot focus on good and focus on evil at the same time. Thank you for being on this transformative episode of the Growing with Fat Manan podcast. This podcast is all about transformation. And here we talk about renewing our minds, because the bedrock of us knowing that which God has for us and being and walking in accordance to his will for our lives is by living a life of constant transformation to his will, to his being. And when we continue living in that, then we become more of who God wants us to be. Thank you for being on this episode, and I'm glad you are here right to this moment. And I would like you please to subscribe, like, share, and comment. Make a comment. You might say something that will bless somebody, or you might say something that will bring a whole different insight to us on this community. So I would like you to be involved. Please subscribe and like, and I'll also like you to on the notification button for the next series on transformation. Thank you for being here. God bless you. Peace.